So what I want to do is I want to ask each of the panelists one question each, and before they ask that question, I'd like them to give us a little biography of who they are and how it is they come to find themselves up here, their sort of their area of expertise, as it were.
Can we start with a libation?
Oh yes, feel free. We'll start with a libation. I was actually going to ask about that. We'll start with a libation just to start the evening off in the right theme, given what we've just learned today.
I was going to do it in Chi, but I decided to do it in Yoruba because we're all African, so anything that's African should be ours. So go ahead. Omi tutu ilẹ̀ tutu, orí tutu, tutu lároyé. Ajúbà Olódùmarè àtẹ̀rẹ̀ rẹ̀ káyé. Ajúbà ẹgbà orúmọlẹ̀ ojúkọ̀tún. Ajúbà ẹgbà orúmọlẹ̀ ojúkòsì. Ajúbà Ọ̀rúnmìlà. Ajúbà Ifá Barapẹ̀tu. Ajúbà gbogbo àwọn òrìṣà pátápátá. Ajúbà àwọn babaláwo dúdú. Ajúbà ẹ̀yin ará iwájú. Èmi ilẹ̀ rẹ̀yìn. Ọmọ tó bá júbà ilẹ̀ alanu. Èkòló tó bá júbà ilẹ̀ alanu. Ọmọ tí kìí júbà kí ibà pa. Ajúbà gbogbo àwọn òrìṣà pátápátá. Ajúbà àwọn baba ńlá àti ìyá ńlá. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ará iwájú nítorí pé a rántí gbogbo nǹkan tí ẹ ṣe fún wa. Gbogbo nǹkan tí ẹ ṣe fún wa ó ṣe dáadáa fún yín. Nítorí pé a mọ̀ pé nítorí tìyín ni à ń gbé nínú ayé. A mọ̀ pé nítorí tìyín ni a ń ṣe gbogbo nǹkan tí a ń ṣe. Nítorí tìyín ni a ń gbé nínú ayé. Gbogbo nǹkan tí a máa ṣe kí ẹ gbẹ̀yìn wá, kí ẹ gbẹ̀sẹ̀ wá, kí ẹ tì wá lẹ́yìn, kí ẹ gbé wá lẹ́sẹ̀, kí gbogbo nǹkan lọ dáadáa fún wa, kí ẹ lè ní òye nínú gbogbo nǹkan tí a ń kọ́, kí a kọ́gbọ́n, ká kọ́gbọ́n mọ́gbọ́n, ká kọ́lọ́mọ́lá, ká kọ́lémọ́lé, ká lówó lọ́wọ́, ká lówó láyé, kí nǹkan lọ rere fún wa. Àṣẹ, àṣẹ, àṣẹ ooo.
Thank you very much for that. Perhaps you could give us more information about what that constituted for you when we come to ask you your question. For now, I'm going to ask the questions in the order you are sitting. So we'll start with you, Brother F.O. Seller, artist and a man of many hats. I want to ask you, we all having watched this documentary, and it's just so powerful and for the most part life affirming. Certain parts of it, some will say just simple logic of humanity. So how did we get from this stage when this would have been universally understood by our ancestors, by our people as our belief system, to the point where now not only have other religions superseded those, but we just, as the word was used in the documentary, that we self-denigrate our belief system so much. Why was it so important that that take place? All part of that sort of causal situation that Africa finds itself in now. And of course, like I said before you answer that, if you could give us some background about yourself and your expertise.
Hello everyone. Thanks. First of all, thank you all for coming to support this event and to also participate to learn and exchange ideas. So my name is Sela Ajay. I'm a researcher, multidisciplinary artist, and I'm also an educator. I'm currently in the multimedia department at the National Film and Television Institute. I've known Guangxi for quite some time now. So I've been researching into African traditional religion for quite a number of years now, and I'm currently doing my PhD research into African religion, specifically the arts. So I can answer your question now. Okay. Yeah. So the reason why we've found ourselves in the current situation that we are in right now is as a result of gradual miseducation. That's the first thing we need to bear in mind. Miseducation. Because 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, this should have been how we should be. This is how we were living, and it's only rational for us. Yeah, it is only rational for us as a people to continue practicing our religion the way it was before. So where did the break occur? And then you look back and you see that there were several interruptions and intrusions into our cultural beliefs, our tradition, our spiritual practices and all that. And these interruptions came in the form of slavery, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and cultural imperialism. So I mentioned 4 things: slavery, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and cultural imperialism. When you delve deeper into these interruptions, you see that at every stage of the process, there was a consistent effort to distance the African from his way of life, from his tradition, from his spiritual practices, from his cultural beliefs, worldview, philosophy. So as for me as a researcher, I'm trying to bridge that gap between our people, their culture, and their spirituality. Because right now there's a huge gap. People don't even want to be associated with being African. Forget about African spirituality. People are even ashamed to embrace their African identity. And for me, this is a huge problem.
Thank you very much. Please, I hope these, as well as the documentary itself, I hope the panelists' answers are going to inspire some questions from yourselves, and we'll get around to you very soon. For Dr. Kambon, once again, please give us a little bit about yourself before you answer this question. What I want to ask you is the so what question. So we've watched this documentary. Some of us may know more about the indigenous belief systems than others. But one thing we can ask is, one thing we can all agree on is that it's not really mainstream on the content like it was, like some would say like it should be. So what I want to ask you is, the so what? What difference would it make? What difference does this spirituality make, and the lack of it? How would the African story right now be different if it had never been usurped by foreign religions, foreign belief systems, and B, if we were to all return to it now? What would be the difference in real terms, 2017? In days of Facebook and apps and technology and cars, etc.
I try to be as interactive as possible, so it's good to start off with that. My name is Dr. Obadile Kambon. I was recently installed as the Bamohene Chidomhene at Ekwapim Mampong, which is a political, both spiritual title. Before that, I was initiated as an Osofo. And when I say Osofo, some people will say which church, but I'm talking about the Osofo that was there before the so-called Christians decided to steal the term and apply it to pastors. That's the word in truth. And that was at Aprobon. My mother is an Okonfo in the Akonidi system. Her main Obosom is a Sujabi, and her shrine is in America. So when I tell people I grew up in an African spiritual system, I've never been in a church. I was born at home, and my midwives were also practitioners of African spirituality, Akana spirituality through Nanadini Zulu. So that's just a little bit of my background. I was also initiated into the Yoruba system, the right hand of Ifa. So that's another dimension of it as well. I could give you other dimensions, but to go straight to your question. I had a spiritual transformation experience when I was around 18 years old, and it was very jarring because I always dealt with my mother's spiritual system as, oh, this is just her again, oh, there she goes again, whatever. because at a very young age we were never in church or mosque or anything, and my father was like, all of this religion stuff is just to enslave us, so forth and so on. So we took a very laid back approach to it, even as my mother would do libations and sacrifices and we would go to the Okonkwo. It was always a bit at a distance, until I had a very jarring experience again, where during that experience, it lasted 1 week, but everything I was doing before that was negative, I had to stop doing it. There's a proverb in Chile that says, "Krapata se okra otirifi," which translates to, a good soul is like a cat, it despises filth. It will always lick itself and try to get clean, and that's what happened in that 1 week. But the point I'm getting at is I had a very vivid dream, and it was a first person dream, and as a dream I was swimming, and I just had something inside of me that told me I have to go faster. I didn't know why, but I just realized I had to go faster. Eventually I went faster, and then I eventually got to a place where I realized I had arrived. And that place was at the egg, waiting to be fertilized. And then I had another impulse, a demiurge, that says, you know what, I have to go inside. And I went inside, and when I went inside, I turned around, and I saw all the other ones that didn't make it inside. And these were sperm. That's what to make it clear. And my very first feeling was a feeling of guilt that I lived, but all of these other ones will die. But then my second feeling was one of I chose wisely, that I chose life. And for all of us who are sitting in here, our very first choice is to choose life. And anytime we don't choose life, in whether what is what we drink or smoke or any of these things, we're going against that very first choice that we all had to make just for us to be sitting here right now. So I'm sharing that because that's what, they mention about libation and sacrifice. I think that what would happen, all of African spirituality is to perpetuate life, to continue to choose life. So when I look at the prototypical sacrifice and the prototypical libation, I look at, there's a song called Afrad Yakube by Ejakonimo. And in it, it talks about a man who's 98 years old. And he goes into his backyard and he goes to plant a coconut tree. And there's a young man who comes upon him and says, you're 98 years old, that we're the ones who are going to chew it. He says, that my grandchild, I'm doing it for those descendants who are coming after me. And I thought it was very profound because I looked at that as a prototypical sacrifice, where the same coconut you could use to get your own sustenance, you decide, I'm not going to eat everything. I'm going to take some and I'm going to plant it there because someone is coming after me. Because the ancestors and the descendants are one thing. Energy isn't created or destroyed. That the one who's coming as your child is going to be made up of the earth, the seeds that she eats and other things, including that coconut that will become part of this child. So that's the first sacrifice, and then the first libation is to take water and pour it on to that coconut. So those two are linked, that you are, one, not taking internally, you're going to put it down and let it grow, and then you're not going to drink this all. And I think the Sangoma, Credo Busama Zulu, that he said you'll take some in and you pour some, and that's for those who are coming after you, so that they will be able to partake of this coconut once it grows. So I think that if we were practicing African spirituality, we will be doing more to preserve life. What we are doing now is cut off from that very first decision that we made. So you see GMOs coming in. They have Monsanto is bringing suicide seeds. So as opposed to having a coconut that will be there for generations to come, that will now become a whole field of coconuts that your descendants, who are your ancestors reincarnated, will come and partake of. Now every year you have to go to Monsanto. This is your thing. Now every year you have to go to Monsanto and buy the seeds. So what we're doing is, instead of preserving life and being true to that first decision we all made, now we're cutting off life we're cutting off our responsibility to our descendants and to our ancestors and giving it to our enemies. So I think that would be the difference. We would be preserving life.
Thank you, that's very powerful. Living like we have descendants depending on us will change the entire way we exist. That's very true. Now on to Sister Benedicta. One question I had for you was the documentary really went into different things that make the whole traditional belief system. So one question I wanted to ask is, when can you say, or when can I say I'm a traditionalist? Because for instance, basically everything they said about attitudes to history, everything Dr. Kambonja said about living your life like your dependents are coming right after me, I like to say that that's how I live my life. But I would say that when it comes to the rites and the sacrifices, I've not done any before. I've not sacrificed anything. I've not gone for a reading with a wulama or anything. I don't really pour libation. So what I want to ask, the other religious systems, they know when officially you become. Either you have to accept a certain prophet as the one and only, or you get baptized, or you say a prayer. For us, for those of us who are looking to learn more about this and pursue that more African spirituality, when can you say you are an initiate? Is there one certain act, or are there some acts in different belief systems from around that change that? And of course, once again, like the others, please give us some information about yourself and also where people can maybe find out more about you or contact you.
My name is Benedicta. That's the name my Christian parents gave me. But as I'm being awakened and realizing that yes, I'm a true African, I have changed the name Benedicta to listen if I'm doing it. But I think I don't deserve, I don't need the Christian name. Yeah, so personally, I might say this program has helped me a lot. In terms of my spiritual journey or awakening journey, because I was born into the Christian family, and I may say I'm the only one right now that is standing or stepping out from the Christian society or the Christian mindset of my family. So I would say it has really helped me a lot. And again, I may say the program has really confirmed to me that there is a God that is far different from the one we read in the Bible. A God that is far different from what the white God, yeah. So to me, it's a very big privilege for me to attend this program. Okay, I might not say a lot because as I'm now trying to follow the footsteps of my spiritual father, who is inspiring me, I may say to be a traditionalist, or for someone to say I'm a traditional spiritual or something, I think you must be someone who is trying to do what your ancestors or the people who came before you, the people who were maybe my great-grandmother or my great-grandfather, what were they doing before they died? I think I must follow their steps. For me personally, I had a dream and I had to confront my father that, who is this person? Honestly, they didn't speak anything about them. I just dreamt and I saw the names. I saw what the old lady was doing. I thought that she was healing the sick with herbs. And deep within me, I think I was having something like that. But because I was born into the Christian family, I was pulling myself from that. But as time goes on, when I'm somewhere and I hear the drum of the traditional, I think I should stop. I should return from where I'm going and join them. Then when I'm going to church, I have to return and go and join them doing what they were doing. At least I must pass it a little bit before I can define. So my dream, everything was confirming that no, the church is not for you. You should not go to the church. And with this dream I had my father, who is this person? So put my mind that let me call my uncle because he was into this health thing. And immediately I take my phone to call, the person call me, no, don't ask anybody, ask your ancestors. So I just have to ask my spiritual father, how do I connect with my ancestors? So I think you need, before you can become a traditionalist or you have to go direct, you have to work in the path of what your forefathers or your grandparents, your ancestors were doing. I think they know their way more than us. I think that's all I can say.
Thank you very much for that. Now, last on the panel, but of course not least, is brother Kujovi, or Uncle Kujovi. I met him for the first time at a screening of his son's documentary. You guys should look for that. The documentary is called Like a Knife, and Uncle Kujovi features in it largely about the same subject, traditional belief systems, much shorter than this one, and I feel like it's much more a sort of toolkit for dealing with the negative things that people say about spirituality, whereas this is sort of like a much more encyclopedic, whole, total contextual look at it. But to you, Uncle Kujovi, I've got a big question. I hate this question, but just in case somebody else was going to ask, I said let me ask it at least, so that it's out of the way. I'm watching this documentary as all of us were, and I might not be the only one to think it's so powerful that the belief system is intertwined with our diet, intertwined with our personality. It's not just going to sit somewhere for 2 hours and then you are that thing. It's intertwined with our life completely, and it will make us much better people to ourselves, individuals, and to our immediate circle, to our society, if we were to follow this. But then the question then would follow for some, if this belief system was so special, how did we allow it to fall by the wayside to let foreign religions come in? So, or even the gods of those belief systems, why did they sit back to let those, as Sister Benedicta put it, white God come and be served? So that's my question to you after you give us some more background about yourself. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, my name is Christopher von Kujo.
Yeah.
I'm the owner of African Magic Temple. And most of the practical things on the video were from our shrine. I am a voodoo priest. I am Afa Boko, which is Ifa in Yoruba, but in Ebe we call it Afa. And Babalao in Yoruba, and in Ebe we call Boko. And I am also a psychic. I have the sixth sense, gifted, of course. And I'm also a professional stage magician. I have performed around almost the whole world performing. I'm Christopher von Kujovi. My children, Pele von Kujovi and Senna von Kujovi, are the ones who did the film called Like a Knife, Voodoo, Like a Knife. And their mother, one sitting over there, my wife, Cheko. Yes. So, to your question now, you know, the African tends to believe in other people's culture, or the modern African, I would say so, tend to believe in other people's culture than their own. When the Belgians came to Congo, I think there was this King Leopold. When he came down to Congo, or before he sent his missionaries to Congo, he told the missionaries that when you go to Africa, don't teach them about God. They already know what God is. but try to discourage them from their juju. What is juju? Today we say juju, juju, juju. What is juju? Toys, plays, what they play with. Those are the dangerous things. So try to discourage them from that. And then if you can discourage them, you can get them. So the word today, juju, 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 they say juju man, juju, juju. It is not an African word. It's a Belgic word, juju, to play with, something to play with. But then it is dangerous. So I'm a voodoo priest. Because the colonial masters, when they came with a mindset of trying to disrupt our culture, and it is true that alone they can capture us. So slowly they got us. So this is why we are here. Because if you tell anybody that pour libation, he'll tell you why. Why should I pour libation? I'm worshipping the devil. But then they forgot that the earth, Asasiya, Aniba, is the one that is feeding us. Is the one that gives us food, gives us everything. If we are to live on this earth, without this earth, we can't live here. And yet still you call it the devil. But it's the mother that is feeding you. So they discouraged us and made us to believe that our system of relating to the Creator is devilish. So we show that Jesus Christ, that is of war. One thing I always teach my children is that the wood that was made into the cross was once a tree in the forest and was cut and shaped into a crop, kept up, and everybody can worship it because it is now in the form of a European, so we can relate to it. But then if I carve a wood in the form of my ancestors, then it becomes devilish. But then it is the same wood in the forest. So this is where they have conquered us, by making us believe that what we have is devilish and what they are bringing to us is godly. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so without further ado, I want to take it straight out into the audience for your questions. And before your questions, I'd like you to say what the highlights of the documentary for you was, if any, and in fact, if it's tied into your question, even better. So, any questions for us this evening?
Greetings, my name's Buki, I'm from the UK, and I think the question was just resonating with me. Do I need the microphone? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Use the microphone. Yeah, what was I saying? So I think the question that was posed to yourself, I'm not sure if I interpreted it correctly, but I was sat there thinking that perhaps he's asking you why the ancestors and the protective spirit allowed certain things to happen to African people. And I just wanted to sort of bring that back, if I did hear it correctly, simply because this is my first time in Ghana and I was aware of certain things that were going on and have been going on. And being at Almina and Cape Coast Castle, etc., it just really hits it even a million times harder to physically see the first church there in your face. So that question was just going through my body at that time. And some people might say it happened for a positive reason. I've heard people say that who do believe in white Jesus, that slavery came to save us, etc. So, not just yourself, anyone on the panel could give me their response, because I'm looking for an answer on that one, please.
But you didn't give us any highlights of the documentary for yourself.
Sorry. Highlights for myself, probably some more of the practical bits of information, because I'm probably looking for ways to sort of bring things into my own life rather than just watching the documentary, leaving Africa and that's it. So getting some of the practical information, some of the rituals and practices.
Okay. I mean, for my part, I felt like he answered my question because I felt like what he was saying was that we pulled away from the ancestor, we pulled away from our spiritual system as opposed to them pulling away from us. But anyway, we'll give the mic back and see if we can take another dig at that.
Okay, my spiritual father used to tell me that you pass through darkness to get light. That's the base. Even though it seems or looks like things had happened to the African, if we in today's context, it is because of what had happened that our spirituality had spread all over. Africa doesn't have religion. We don't have religion. We only have spirituality. Because religion is taking a particular human figure or an image and say this is God and that's it and that's all that you have to go through without, you can never meet the Supreme. So Africa doesn't have a religion. Voodoo is not a religion, it's just a way of life. It's a way of life, your eating habits, your drinking, your sleeping, your bathing, and just everything in life is a way that voodoo is. So when they say somebody is a voodoo priest, people expect you to be behaving in a particular way, but no, it is just that naturally that you just know how to live life and live less live. You respect nature and nature respects you back. So in Africa we don't have religion, we have spirituality, but then we begin to use the term religion for our traditional practices that it's not a religion. You can go to Christian church if you want and still be practicing your voodoo or practicing your Ifa if you want. But then for sacrifice, the teachings there and what we are taught at home are totally different. So that's why we decide not to go. But if you are a beginner, there is nothing wrong with it. Because if you cut off totally, you will have difficulty because you don't understand where you are going and you are not understanding where you are coming from. So you start by getting to know yourself, know the foods that you eat that are not good for you, you stop them. Not because everybody is eating it, then you just eat. The society or the group of people that you associate it with and then their vibrations are not going well with you, you cut them and then you associate with other people. So ourselves have led, what I would say ourselves, the agenda to change our culture and our way of life so that we will remain slaves forever, economic slaves and whatever. That is why we are where we are. Have I answered your question? Still not. You can ask me to be clearer.
Maybe when working. Okay, so. Sorry, I just feel like I might not get this experience again, so I just really want to get what I'm maybe looking for in a sense. So if people were physically, in chains and etc., beyond their physical colours, well, what it seems. Why did the ancestors and the protective energies, and not, I don't know the right word, not allow that to happen, but why is that part of the story? What's the greater benefit in a sense, what I'm trying to say? Why did...
Okay, I am understanding what you are trying to ask, but the point is that who were the people in chains? Yes, blacks. But there were still blacks here in Africa. There were still blacks in Africa, and there were some blacks that were sent over. That's why it's because of the changing of our mind to make us to believe that what we have is negative. And those who actually wanted to go in that direction, believing what we have is no good, where the people, I'm sorry to say, somehow caught up in that. Because there were still kings, queens, who were still here, and they weren't taken away.
I'm getting your question perfectly. You are trying to say that, yeah, why should our ancestors or the spiritual powers or forces we have on the continent allow such things to happen to the Africans? That's what you're trying to say, right? So, first of all, in African traditional religions, we create our gods. Our gods didn't create us. In African spirituality, let me put it that way, you know, in the Judeo-Christian tradition and their beliefs, God created man, and later on He created woman. God created everything. Okay, but with ours, we create our spiritual forms. Okay, and we decide to give it what qualities we want them to have. So that's how come there's a supreme being, alright, but with the spirits, they've been put on this earth to serve as intermediaries between man and the supreme being. So we have several departments. There's a spirit we consult for warfare, there's a spirit for managing disease, there's a spirit for managing natural disasters and all these things. Now, you notice that there's a human factor at every point in dealing with these spirits, which is man, which is us. Now, if you are able to compromise this human factor, of course he can, that compromise can reflect in how he deals or interacts with this spirit. To an extent that during colonialism, in Volta region and in some of the Ewe, let me put it in the Ewe nation, because at first the Ewes were a unified nation before they were split across the West African coast. We had spirits who were protecting Europeans. You can go and check it. It's in A.B. Ellis's book, The Ewe-speaking People of the Slave Coast of Africa. The Europeans had coerced or found a way, because in other West African regions they had deities or spirits who were purposely created to be slaying white people or Caucasians or Europeans because of the atrocities they were inflicting on the people. They had spirits that were purposely meant to cause chaos or havoc or destroy the European. But among other areas, the Europeans found a way to coerce the priests to create deities to protect them. Now, this is a classic example of the human factor being compromised to further a particular agenda. Do you understand? So now imagine this thing on a large scale, on the entire continent. This is the kind of forces we are dealing with. I hope I've answered your question in a way.
There's a movie by Osman Semben out of Senegal called Emitai, and it's set in a historical period where Africans are being conscripted to fight in World War II. And what the French did is that they would go into villages and literally those who would fight against, there was one guy who tries to run off into the forest. He doesn't want to fight on behalf of the French. So what they do is they get his family, they put them at gunpoint and very much coerce. Same thing happened in Congo with the Lingala, so forth and so forth, who became the force publique and so forth. So they would threaten the family and say, "We will kill you if you don't do X, Y, and Z." Now, the way we look at things now, we think about ourselves sometimes as African people or as black people. At that point in time, and even to a large degree now, we don't see ourselves that way. We have Akans, even within the Akans, Asantes and Achims don't get along per se. You know, Achims and Equapim, so forth, the Guans who are there, the Fantes and Asantes don't get along. So for us, we are looking at it a bit ahistorically because we're acting like our concept now is as it was then. Now, if we go back to ancient Kemet, and that was mentioned several times, but they said Egypt. I don't like that term because what it does is obscures the meaning. The word Kemet means black people. We have a determinative of a man and a woman in a dark piece of charcoal. It literally means black people. That's what the people there called themselves. I was at the opening across the street. There was a girl who said, "I'm not Egyptian, I'm Fancy." And it's a bit of a, I don't know, tautology or something, because it means that she doesn't, one, know the word Kemet. Because if you say, "I'm not black, but I'm this," you understand? And that's the real power of Kemet, is because you, at that point in time, you had all these divisions. You had Waset, you had Abjul, you had Tatseti. But to even call the nation Kemet, and the earliest attestation is in the Old Kingdom in the Pyramid text, it means that regardless of whatever divisions we have, we're willing to unite under one umbrella and say, look, we're all black people. And then the very first military document is called the Autobiography of Weni, and it talks about bringing together both sides of the house, Upper and Lower Kemet, the Nubians from Wawat, from Irjet, from Sajer, so forth and so on. Every black person to take military action against these Eurasian sand dwellers, right? That was the power then. Now let's come up to, more recent times. I think that if we had that type of understanding, what Efosela was getting at was that you had black people fighting against black people. So I have my abosom, you also have your abosom, and we're fighting against each other because we don't have that understanding we're all black people and they're all white people. We should all come together against a common enemy. If we have that understanding, then we can say now it's all of our abosom. So it's not so much of here's one united force and they're just letting us do this. We have abosom from my side who are fighting abosom from your side, who are fighting abosom from this side. And there's so much material culture that points to that. We have walls around entire cities because people have to build walls because these people are bringing their abosom to do this. We have to have doorways that are this high so that people have to crawl in, so that when they're coming to enslave us, now we can cut off their head. So I hope it makes it a bit clearer that it's not like but even there's this core understanding that we're all black people, and we see it in the certain things that we do, because one person will try to get these types of beads. Now I'm trying to get these types of beads or rum or gin or all these things that the Europeans brought just to distinguish myself from everyone else, because I know on a very basic level we're all the same. But the only way I can show that I'm different from everyone else is, look, I'll marry a Chinese, or look, I have this type of Mercedes Benz, or I have, so some of these pathologies that we're doing are even to get away from this basic understanding that we're all black people, we're all the same. But to make sure that I'm different from everyone else, I have this cloth, and we see this in our spiritual systems. If you go to a shrine now, there's almost nothing in the shrine that's African. They're pouring libation with schnapps, which is Dutch. They're saying bring a wet cloth, which is coming from somewhere in Europe, from France or whatever. Every single spiritual implement that's in this shrine that's supposed to be traditional is coming from there, and it means we really lost the understanding, because before the Europeans came, there's a whole spiritual economy of the shrine, which means if we're having a festival, the carver of the drum gets paid off of that. If we're having a festival, the palm wine tapper gets paid off of that. If we're having this, one who's making the ahinema is getting paid. Every single element enriches the society. So what we have now is just the form, but no substance. We still are doing the same thing. We're pouring a libation, but all of the substance in terms of something that's supposed to sustain life for our people, black people, all of that is stripped away. So I was a bit long-winded, but I hope it went to your question.
Let me add something real quick about the question of whether our ancestors allowed or disallowed Africans to be taken through this degradation of not regarding their religion or disrespecting their religion or not continuing their religious practices. Well, there were some forms of resistance too, aside the fact that, this belief that the ancestors were there, but Africans were, coerced into disregarding their religion. There were so many instances of resistance. For instance, there's this often told tale about a powerful priest called Kondo, and he found himself in shackles. He was being enslaved, to the Americas, and he was so powerful to an extent that the ship wouldn't move in the middle of the journey till he was brought back. And some of these stories are preserved in songs, in literature, in poems. And then also, when you look at resistance in terms of slavery and colonialism, I earlier mentioned that there are departments of the spirit. There are spirits that you consult before you go and wage war. They are war oracles. And even in the Haitian Revolution in Haiti, Voodoo oracles were invoked before Toussaint and his army were able to defeat the French utterly. That's the main power that fueled them to exterminate the French. You can go and check it out there. And this was an idea from a Maroon who was kicked out of Jamaica and brought to Haiti. He's called Dr. Bookman because he was very radical in Jamaica. They wanted to get rid of him. They didn't know they were doing themselves a great disservice. And Dr. Bookman was preaching to the people, go to your police, consult your police. That is where you get your source of power, because you are crying to this white God that the same French guys worship, and you want him to listen to your prayers. These guys are killing our people. They are destroying our generation. You have to put the image of the white God aside and embrace your voodoo. And in the ceremony, there was a voodoo priestess who invoked voodoos, and a pig was slaughtered, and they all drank from the blood of the pig and swore to exterminate the French. This is how the Haitians defeated the French. And the Europeans know this very well, so they try as much as possible to squash your spirit in terms of you having that sense of connection with your genuine spirituality. So even the British, during the times of, now this happened in the 1800s, or was it in the 1770s, and they defeated the French in 1804, I think. Now, during colonial times, I'm talking about in the early 1900s, between 1900s and 1920s, the British were busily destroying war oracle shrines in Volta region. Not only the British, the Germans as well. They were destroying war oracle shrines. You can go and do your research because they knew the power these shrines had. They were not only destroying the shrines, they were exiling the priest and executing the priest of these shrines. Then there's one powerful shrine that still exists. It's called Dente Kusomfo Shrine. There are remnants of those shrines in Ketekrachi when you go there today. So you ask yourself, why were these shrines being destroyed by the British and the Germans? I need you to go and follow up and do research into some of these things. Thank you.
Now that was very in depth. Any other question? Once again, what your highlights of the documentary was, and then your question.
Akwaba, everybody. I'm glad I'm here. This is my second day in Ghana. I just arrived on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, I think. Yeah. So it's good to be here. As for the film, the highlight is all of it. But if I'm being very specific, seeing my brother, my teacher of history, Robin Walker, on there, that was a great thing to see him there. Now, the geography of this place is not something that I'm familiar with. But as the taxi drove in, by the way, my name is Manu. I've adopted that name, Manu Kwesi. I was born Sunday, so that's quite easy. But Manu is an Akan word, and my understanding it means second born or born again. So my rebirth is born again as an African. My original country, you can't tell from the accent, because I come from the UK like my sister here, but my original country is Jamaica. And I have a Jamaican spirit, but I keep it low. The same place as Bookman got it. And I know about the priests who in the 1760s in Jamaica formulated an idea of destroying every white on the land. and that was from the Obia priest. And Boatman Ducky was a young child at that time. So what the British did was to try to exterminate all men and women who had priestly inclination, and they would have bodies hanging from trees and so forth. But they escaped to the nearest island, which is Cuba and Haiti. And so when he became an adult, that spirit was still there, a vengeance against them. But anyway, as I drove along the road here, I was touched by something quite profound. And when the taxi driver did stop here, I said, this is the place for me. So what I did was to go and visit what I felt was my ancestors. I could sense something very profound and deep just here, just in this area here. And I knew it was the spirit of my ancestors who were destroyed here, who were raped here, who were massacred here, who were brutalized, who lost their sense of identity here, and who committed suicide here to avoid going onto those ships to different parts of the Americas and the Caribbean. And I went across there and I poured my libation, and I did what I call an ancestral healing prayer, which I'm putting a question here. It's a little bit more than remembering our ancestors or recognizing our ancestors. The healing prayer for me is to say, I cannot call on ancestors who have not arrived in the ancestral realm. My understanding of these spiritual systems is that the rites of passage of burial is the most important aspect of African cultural spiritual life. If those ancestors weren't accorded proper ritual of return, because they committed suicide, because they were, jumping into the seas, into the rivers, and so forth, where are those spirits? And what do we, the living, do to help those spirits return into the ancestral realm where they can serve us? So what I was looking for there was a sense of healing of ancestors, especially the ancestors of 400 years and the ancestors who disappeared at the hand of Arabs, enslavers of Africans also. Because for my feeling is, unless we heal those ancestors of 400 years and beyond, then the task of unifying us becomes a little bit more difficult. Any comments?
There are several people who've made the observation that what ends up becoming hurricane starts off on the west coast of Africa, right? And they barrel through the ocean, and then they eventually hit the islands of the Caribbean. Hurricane Irma, we can name all of these hurricanes that have come through, even very recently in the news. So, your question goes to that point for people who understand. It actually ties into some of the profound points of the movie for me. The main thing that comes through is on my bag I have Dikenga. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Dikenga, but it's this, right? This circle, Dikenga, And the idea from this is, here is Kala, this is in the Kikongo language of Congo. This is Kala, this is birth. I should actually start here. This is Musoni, is conception. And that's yellow. Kala is birth, that's black. This is Tukula at the top. And then this is the sun at noon, the high point. This is Luvemba, and that's red. And then this is Luvemba. It's represented by a grayish white. And that's death, that's sunset. Then it comes back down to conception. Now, this is the core idea, and why I've worn this every day for the past 25 or so years, is because this is one of the foundations of African thought. And we hear it in the law of physics that energy isn't created or destroyed, it's only transformed. There's a poem by Birago Diop called Breaths. It was originally written in French Sufis. And it basically says that the dead are not dead, They are in the crackling of the fire. They are in the rustling of the leaves. They are in the sound of the water. And he goes in, with so many of these things. And it seems very abstract, but it's very literal. Because when you bury someone in the ground, we know that the body is 60 to 70% water. When you bury someone down, the water that's in them doesn't disappear. It's recycled, right? This is the biggest recycling bin. Because what happens is that water now becomes a cloud. The cloud then becomes a river. The river then becomes something you drink, and it goes on and on and on. So this is the idea when we're talking about our ancestors, that those ancestors didn't disappear. Every single part of what was those people who are living is still existing. Part of it is existing through you, through your blood, through everything that makes up your body. Part of it is existing as other parts, other things that we see around us. But again, this is this idea that the dead are not dead. They're in every single thing around us. The core of your point was, the funeral ritual, and there are several people who have suggested there's something that needs to happen, because as long as they're not settled, then they will continue starting off as winds on the West African coast, and then eventually go into all these places. Another idea is that we're talking about in ancient Kemet, they had on the ceiling of Dendara, this is one of the ancient shrines, they had this 26,000 year cycle, what we now understand as zodiac, but it's in retrograde. And it's talking about right now we're in what's called Intiyu, that's the fish. And eventually we come to Menat or Hapi, that's the water bringer, right? And the idea of this water bringer is, that's what they say, the age of Pisces, age of Aquarius, so forth and so on. What we can see tangibly, and this again goes to your point in terms of retribution, is that recently, about a month ago, they were saying that part of Antarctica is breaking off, about the size of the state of Rhode Island. That is going to go into the ocean, is going to melt and raise all water levels throughout the world. Again, we're talking about ancestors recycled. So all of these port cities, Rio de Janeiro, Charleston, New York, Amsterdam, all these places where ancestors were enslaved, all those hubs of enslavement, all of those are going underwater. And again, these are the ancestors who are going to get balance, who are going to get retribution. For us, is what is our part to play in that retribution and rebalancing and restoration of Ma'at.
We should have finished by now. I'm getting funny looks by the guys who've hired us the sound equipment, but I'm really excited by this conversation and everything. So, any other questions, or should we wrap up? Oh, you have a...
Hello. Yeah, to your question that you were asking. I am an Ewe person. Yes, and Ewes are the base of Voodoo, as it is. Ewes acquire Afa or Ifa from the Yorubas. But then the base of Ewe traditional spirituality is Voodoo, which is now changed into many forms. Voodoo, whatever. But it's a Voodoo. In Voodoo, when you talk about a dead spirit or somebody who died and is not buried, like we are saying, we jump into this. The spirit of nature and spirit of human beings or everything is always around. Because as we said, the spirit is eternal, it doesn't die. It's always there and can easily be contacted and channeled to give kind of peace or whatever they are demanding. Because I do channeling of spirits or dead people who died, and be able to contact them from wherever they are and be able to connect. I have students coming from the UK, from the US, from all over, coming to connect with their ancestors. So it is not like the ancestors are gone and they are nowhere to be found and this is. So if you have a way to relate to them through your libation and everything, they are there, they are hearing you. It's only to know how to connect with them. You see, when you are practicing voodoo, if you are a practitioner, it's totally different. from somebody who is just hearing about you. When you practice, you would know that the connection is always there. When you practice, you will know. That's why, like in my shrine, like what you see the boy using the knife to cut himself, that's my nephew. And then the person doing all those things, the purification with chicken and everything, that's me. So when you practice voodoo, as it is, you connect every energy anywhere. Plant, animal, human, whatever you mean. So it's always there. So they are not like they are lost and they have not been brought. But Ghana, there was this Emancipation Day that was instituted some years back, trying to bring the ancestors back, and I think they have done something at Cape Coast, and they still celebrate it, but it's no more strong as it used to be. The Emancipation Day, that the ancestor spirits were kind of welcomed back. So those things, this is also here in Ghana. It's not like just lost and nobody is doing anything about them, and they try to do something about them.
One last question.
Good evening. My name is Malik. My question is about the voodoo itself. Right now, you see in Ghana right now, it's like there are so many posters going around about spiritual people, voodoo, juju, and all those stuff. And I want to know the difference between the voodoo you are talking about, the spirituality itself, and what I'm seeing on the posters around going on and all those things. It's about like money rituals and everything, like prosperity, anything that will make you prosper. You see, and sometimes people normally go there for other stuff to, let's say, I want you to kill this person, do that for me. And I want to know the difference between the voodoo you are talking about, the African spirituality you are talking about, and what is being done right now.
You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what is. Hello? Yeah, I think this will do. What you see on the televisions and on the posters, these are all charlatans. People who are playing tricks on you to take your money. They are not voodoo priests. They don't have any spirituality. Some people may learn one or two magical tricks. And when you go to their shrine, they start to demonstrate how powerful they are by doing certain things and to convince you that they have power. Do you think that if that person can make you rich, why he is not rich? Why he himself is not rich? I can make money. And if I can make money, why don't I make it for myself? Why do I have to call people who come let me make money for you? It's not true. That's what I'm saying. When you're a real voodoo practitioner, you know what it is. Because what people see, and maybe some pastors are demonstrating magical tricks at churches, fooling the congregation and making them to believe that they have the power of God. You know, when you're a voodoo priest, you look into the sky, the rain is about to fall, you mention a name, and the rain hangs in the air. And it doesn't drop. And there is no trick about that. There must be power in your voice that you can communicate with nature at will. That is spirituality. It is not just book or just saying this. You must be, voodoo is a practical way of life. It is very practical. That's why people fear juju. Because somebody can say, hey you, like this, and then your head will start aching you on the spot. What did he do? That's why we're talking about quantum physics. He can connect you through his mental energy and be able to bring a change in you immediately. Not what you see on the televisions and those are charlatans. They are thieves.
Let me add something real quick. If you care to know, there's an association called the Ghana Association of Psychic Practitioners and Healers, and I'm sure Bonkujobi, who is also my mentor, I learned a lot from him. I'm sure he's part of that group. So before you even become, every Vodou practitioner has to be certified before you have to practice in Ghana. When you go to Volta region, they have to give you license before you can practice if you don't know. So if you go, you're going to consult a Vodou practitioner. If you want to be very prudent in your consultation, the first thing you need to ask for is a certificate. And on that certificate, you see boldly written there that this person so and so has been granted the license or the award to be a certified psychic healer or practitioner. And below the certificate, they tell you this certificate is not meant for you to do money doubling, manipulation, or tricking people out of their to part with their money. Do you understand? Yeah. So that should be enough to answer your question. That there's a direct, difference. There's a total difference between being a Vodou practitioner or a psychic healer and religious charlatanism.
I think your question was answered here, but I wanted to also share something that I thought was important from the film, if I can. That in the film, and we've used this term God, that's another term I don't like. If you look at the etymology of it, it's coming through Gothic, and it originally comes from the idea of mounds of dirt that Germanic people used to worship. So they come here and say that what this is the equivalent of Arakin Yankopon, or what they were dealing with. And in Eurasian thought, when you think of what is God, there's a lot of conceptual baggage that comes along with it. When I say that, I'm saying that usually the idea of God is a white man in the sky with blonde hair, blue eyes, so forth and so on. So I often say the equal sign will kill our people. Because what happens is when we say God equals Aradin Yankopon, then what happens is our indigenous concept gets spoiled, and then it just becomes a one-to-one relation. So that means that Onyame is just a white man in the sky, or let's just say black man in the sky. But this is, I want to show this to you. Before we were using the Ghana CD, some people were using gold dust, and this is a weight to counterbalance the gold dust. And what you see on this weight, I think it's a small room, right? And it's a triangle that has a spiral in it, and spiral or 3 spirals coming from that central spiral. And the name of this gold weight is Eradin Yankopon. Eradin Yankopon. Now, if you ask the typical Ghanaian going around, what is Aradin Yankopon, they'll point to the white man on the back of the trotra. This is why I say the equal sign will kill our people, because this is a very profound concept. The Ahinasan, that's the word for triangle, that represents the womb. That's Arade, that's the feminine aspect of the Supreme Being. The spiral in the middle is Yankopon, and that represents a sperm inside of the womb. And it's a very literal yet figurative representation that to be a creator, it requires both feminine and masculine aspects to create. If I send a man into a closet to go create a child, you will have a problem. If I send a woman into the closet and say, go create a child by yourself, she will have a problem. But what you need is both aspects. And this is the fundamental, again, a foundation of African thought. The idea that it requires both feminine and masculine. You hear it among the Ga. You hear it among the Ga where they say Ha Na Nyongmo. You hear it among the Ewe where they say Mawu Lisa. In Christianity they say, let's just say Mawu. But Mawu is actually the feminine aspect and Lisa is the masculine aspect. If you go back to Kemet, they had Amen and Mut. If you go all throughout the continent, there's this idea of masculine and feminine. With it among the Dogon, they talk about Amma, they say Amma's womb. They talk about Amma impregnating the earth. So, do you have a womb, or do you have a penis, or what is it? Again, it's the idea to be a creator or the creator, you have to have masculine and feminine aspects. This is a foundational aspect. And all of this again goes to the idea of when we talk about Noon, this is a primordial waters that everything came from, and it's representing the womb. On a deeper aspect, if I say I'm 38 years old, it's not true. If I say you are 30 however years old, it's not true, because everything from the concept and African concept is the same age, because all of us came from the exact same source. We're just different transformations of this exact same source. So in the book of Coming Forth by Day that Professor James Small mentioned, it talks about Amun, which is where the word Amma comes from, or Nyame comes from. It comes from Amen, and that was the divinity in ancient Kemet. That they said you are one, only one who has no second. You are one, but whose arms are many. So in that sense, everything that you look at is just a transformation of what at one point in time was just this primordial waters. So you came out and you ended up looking like Borchi. I came out, I ended up looking like Obadile. She came out, she ended up looking like Kala, Sela. But on a deeper level, if we want to understand spirituality, we're all the same age. Then to come, and I'll end on this because I want us to move. When we talk about spirituality, you have to look at the root of that word, spire. You talk about inspiration, respiration, all you're talking about is breath. But that's just one aspect of what African people understand, the multiple concepts of the human being. So the breath is one concept, among the kind of called home, but it's not all. So even to have this conversation in English, it reduces our concept to just the breath aspect, because it's important, but it's not all, because you also have Sum Sum, you also have Moja, you also have Okra, you have all of these aspects of the human being. So I also want to put it in context that it's reductionist to even talk about spirituality, because spire is only the breath aspect as opposed to the multiple aspects of the human being.
Okay, so we'll call it a night at that point. Information, Ancestral Voices Facebook platform for more information about accessing the film that you just watched online. Like I said, next week Saturday we'll be screening this again at Kokolimle, venues One Corner Garden. You can get more information all on that on the Ancestral Voices Facebook page, group. Those of you who have the flyer, my number is on there, so you can contact me for pre-orders. Come talk to me about pre-orders now if you like as well, for the DVDs and the book that came out. I said earlier this year, but it's not this year, it was actually November of last year this book came out. And then of course getting the copies of the first DVD as well. So thank you very much once again for coming. Those of you who are so driven, please tell your friends to come to the future screenings, or come yourself again once again, and you know, spread the word. Thank you very much. Okay.